going to be like, I can't hear me anyway.
Is housing shelter or an investment? Securing shelter is a fundamental necessity for everyone. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the foundational level is rooted in the essentials of human existence. Basic life requirements include air, water, and food, in addition to the fundamentals of rest, clothing, and a place to shelter. When any of these essentials are absent, all other considerations naturally take a back seat as the immediate priority becomes obtaining these basic needs. It's not just a preference, it's a fundamental matter of survival. By the way, guys, reading from The Housing Trap, Escaping the Housing Trap. Such a cool book. Jeremy Larkin with the Larkin Group home selling team, KW Realty. Welcome to the Southern Utah, the Real Estate Morning Drive. Jesse Paul.
Good morning, everybody.
Jessica Taggart-Marone.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We've got, and there were three in the studio.
And there were three.
And the studio is the Larkin Group headquarters. Let me read on. The second level of Maslow's hierarchy is safety. Once a human's basic needs have been met, it is natural to seek an increased level of security. I love that. Protection, because I'm thinking of like, well, why have a 3-bedroom when you could have a 5-bedroom? Protection of oneself and one's property is urgent. There is also room here for things such as personal health, stable employment, and financial security. A residence serves as much more than shelter. It enhances physical security, and under favorable circumstances, it becomes a vehicle for accruing wealth and achieving financial stability. Homeownership often plays a pivotal role in ascending the initial rungs of Maslow's hierarchy. But the question is it investment or is it shelter, housing? And we've talked about this, and right?
Here's what's interesting. As we watch clients try to find a home and trying to find shelter, a lot of times they fall into a confusion and the investment side takes over, right?
Oh, good point.
Right. All of a sudden, the financial part literally just consumes. And they forget, hey, I'm trying to find a shelter. I'm trying to find a place to put my family. Or right, a seller needs to make a move, and wherever they need to move, the pricing over there takes over their brain in what they're going to do here, which really is irrelevant, right? Whatever you're doing over there makes zero difference for what you're going to get out of your house here.
What do you think caused it? This is fun. What do you think caused? I have a very strong philosophy and theory on this. What do you think caused us to move from a shelter mindset to an investment mindset?
Well, I would say that I think they can both be true, or they can both, they can be very opposite if we're waxing philosophically right now, because sometimes people aren't, either they tell themselves the story that they're not meant to be homeowners, or they literally cannot be a homeowner. And so they're finding shelter in a rental, right? And to meet that need. And then other people really see the vision of long-term wealth building through home ownership. So it can be a shelter and an investment into your future wealth. But I think it's hard. We talk a lot in our office about how logic makes people think, but emotion makes people act. And so when they get caught up in that logical part of an emotional portion of the decision making, it can often stump their decision making and wealth building growth, so to speak, because they can't make a decision. I've seen that actually firsthand recently, and it's been really frustrating for a buyer that I've been working with for almost a year. His analysis paralysis has caused him to lose out on several homes that he's loved. Yeah. And it hasn't made it any easier to find something, because he always thinks about the homes he's lost and compares what we're seeing now with that. So, but back to the investment and the shelter, I think there's also social media. I don't mean to throw it under the bus. It's great. It has its.
Oh, I think you should throw it right under the bus.
You
I think
should.
so.
Yeah,
I think
probably
social
Don't
media.
even apologize.
I think.
you're right.
I think
Why am
social
I
media is
apologizing?
literally
I think
the
one of the
greatest
reasons-
poison to
Yeah.
modern society,
Yeah.
Yes.
and we participate.
I know.
In it.
I hate it actually, but
Yeah.
I think people used to love their homes and feel safe there and realize that they were creating memories there and bonds there. And then social media has made it like so much more keeping up with the Joneses as far as design and how big people's homes are. And it makes it harder to kind of put your head down and just live your life. So I think people kind of get in that stuck mindset and lose the mentality of this is a shelter for my home, my family to grow in and make memories.
Well, let's share a quick story. I own a home. It's called the Miles Home. It's a historic vacation rental on Main Street. It's very cool.
It is cool.
Very cool home. I will link it in the show today. The Samuel and Hannah Miles home was built between 1865 and 1869 by Samuel and Hannah Miles with their own two hands. They lived in a wagon box and a tent while they built it.
Nice.
Okay.
It's a miracle they stayed married. I mean, they
Of
probably
course,
didn't have
yeah,
options because
of
I
course.
can hardly
They were-
put
they're-
IKEA
they're-
furniture
well,
together.
yeah. Well,
My
guess what,
husband
Jessica?
Without fighting.
Yeah, Jessica, it was easy for them to stay married because they didn't have to get in social media and look at all the happier,
That's
more attractive people that they could be married to.
Oh, man.
Okay, you ready for
They
this?
had to
Yeah,
go.
sorry.
They had to travel 1,000 miles to find another
You ready
person.
for this parallel? I pulled up hgtv.com and I hovered over the shows drop-down list. Would you guys like to know what the shows are right now on HGTV? And I want you to tell me if this affected buyers' tastes. 100-Day Dream Home,
Oh, man.
Backed by the Bros, this is Property Brothers, Bargain Block, clearly on Getting a Deal, Battle on the Beach, Celebrity IOU, Christina on the Coast, Divided by Design, Down Home Fab, Farmhouse Fixer, Fixer to Fabulous, Good Bones, Help I Wrecked My House, No Demo Reno, My Lottery Dream Home, Married to Real Estate, Ugliest House in America, Vacation House Rules, Zillow Gone Wild. Do you
Are these
think
are these just the real
They're
estate
real
shows, or
shows.
those are the
those
top,
are all shows
the
on
top shows?
HGTV? I want you to think about whether consumers are affected by media. And this is social media. You know,
Right.
we define social media as Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. This is all media. This is all social media, right? It took us from, but Jeremy, those are different times. It was the 1800s. Look, I know this, but if you go back to this book,
Here,
Well, even
go ahead,
in
Jesse, go.
even pre-social media.
yeah,
here's what's interesting. Some of the, let's just take wealth. Some of the absolute deepest wealth in the world was built $1 at a time. Because the world's gotten so fast, the hype on making money has gotten so short. Doing that is boring, even though that is still the way to build the deepest wealth. Now let's circle back to that question: is what's going on? How are people getting those two things confused, right? For instance, we've been in a market for 10 years of extreme growth in prices in real estate. Like, even if you take out 20 and 21, for 10 years in southern Utah, we had 8 to 10% growth every year over year.
Yeah, there was never a question if someone was going to be
Yeah,
able
like,
to sell
oh
it
yeah,
for
I can
more than
price
what they
it
paid.
pretty much anywhere I want and almost get it. Right, for 10 years straight. And so that's left a unrealistic idea on what's possible. And right?
Well, and I
For-
think
for sellers.
for sure, and we're seeing that more and more as we're taking listings that are sitting a little bit longer, or they're digging their heels in a little bit to have price reduction conversations. And everyone wants to walk out net positive from the sale of their home, but really, if they were to come out even, they would still be ahead. They didn't pay rent for any
Let me throw something in here on that note. This is motleyfool.com. The reason I went here is I went away from any real estate news. Motley Fool is like famous for stock investment type stuff, right? Homeowners have a much higher net worth than this is January 16th, 2024. This is completely current.
Yeah, really current.
Homeowners have a much higher worth than renters do net worth. The median for a homeowner in 2022 is $396,200 versus $10,400 for renters. Wow. Owning a home is one one reason why that's the case as a valuable asset. Yeah, here's another. This is interesting. People who are in a better financial position are more likely to be able to buy a home. Duh. But let me take you the steps further. Owning a home, we've talked about this on our show in the past, is also it's less transient, it's less transactional. Mm-hmm. And so I also think homeowners as a whole make different decisions than renters do as a whole. Okay. Yeah, no offense to somebody who's renting right now. It's like, no, I'm investing 10% of my income into my mutual funds every month. Cool. Overall, I think we all can agree on this. Renting is transactional, it's transient, it's temporary. Mm-hmm. And so, but this is real data, guys. Real data. 40 times the net worth. 40 times the net worth, right? Yeah. For homeowners than renters. And so what's happened is this. We went from shelter, Samuel and Hannah Miles, to people bought homes and they started appreciating. Yeah. And here's what else goes into this. You know, this fix or flop and all this crap on HGTV. Now, Jessica, Jesse, Jeremy. I love this. In the time you've been in business, just guesstimate how many times a rando, as they say, a random person called you and said, yeah, I'm looking for a fixer-upper, a flip.
Oh, man. So many.
How many of those people do you think were qualified? Yeah. Yeah. How many of those do you think were like qualified, legitimate flippers?
10% of them, if that.
Every random person now thinks that they can take their money.
I'm a real estate pro.
And like dentists and doctors and attorneys and Big O Tires managers and everybody else. And this, look, I'm not here to tell you can't do that, because some people might be like, this guy's really negative. I can do whatever I want. But you have to realize people who are not in this profession want to dabble and flip homes. So, this is because we've been trained to see this.
Right.
And for a while,
it's easy.
For a while, it may have been.
Yeah, there might have been.
Right?
They could flip homes.
Lipstick on a pig, paint the cabinets, change out the knobs, and walk away double digits wealthier.
So I want to share a story. You want to talk about a story? I want to share a story that happened to me, because you guys know I do not care about keeping up with the Joneses.
Nope.
I live in a little house it's 102 years old. I mean, it's cute.
It's very charming.
But it definitely doesn't indicate any success that I've had, right? So I have a guy, a heating and air conditioning guy, come over to my house. This is 4 or 5 years ago. And, you know, he thought, man, this guy's a really great real estate agent. He's killing it, you know, because I do pretty well. Mm-hmm. And he shows up to my house to give me a bid. And he says, wow, this is where you live?
You mean the experience that every single agent in town has when they find out I live in old homes downtown?
Right? And I'm like, what do you mean? It didn't even dawn on me that he was thinking, wow, what a loser, you know, because I don't think that way. But could that be what's going all the way back to why are people getting confused between shelter and the investment? Could that judgment actually be driving these decisions or this feeling, right? It didn't bother me.
Jesse, this is actually funny. My son, I'm working with a high school mountain bike racing team. We were actually out last night in Diamond Valley riding. It was awesome. He said last week, somebody on the team, some kid asked him, he either said, are you rich? But I think what he said is, I heard you guys were rich. And Matt's like, what? My son knows everything about my world.
Yeah.
Within reason, right? And Matt's like, excuse me? It's been in a weird real estate market. And the kid's like, well, you know, like my mom or dad or somebody said, I don't know, like your dad's on the radio. There's this perception. I remember Joe Wright one time, Joe that worked with us for several years.
Oh, I love that guy.
Works with D.R. Horton. Told me that he was hanging out with what I refer to as the real estate bros. These are the mid-30s guys in real estate in St. George. And when they found out that I lived at the time in a 1,500, it's actually 1,477 square feet, 1,477 square foot home downtown St. George, built in 1966, he said that they were baffled. Really? Are you sure? We thought he lived in Stonecliff or Entrada or Little Valley. I'm like, see, the thing about media is it creates perceptions. And the perception is that, see, Jesse's big in real estate, so why would he live in an old home? And the perception is because they hear me on the radio, I'm rich, right? What we do is social media has screwed everything up. I love our little.
We love our little house.
Old stuff.
And we do, and we keep it because it gives us so much more freedom other places. Now I can actually go see my grandkids every quarter clear across the United States. Now I can actually buy other investment properties. I'm not so stuck in a house payment because I overbought for my family that I can't do anything else.
Good point. Okay, I'm going to ask Jessica a question here. We got Jessica Tackett-Marone on the show with us today. Just for fun, clients you're talking to, buyers, sellers, it doesn't matter. There's no point here. The point is, tell us what kind of concerns are people bringing, or what kind of scenarios are they bringing? Meaning as a matter of fact, let's go there. The last 3 clients that have reached out to you to do something, what were their scenarios?
A few of them realize that they are just feeling pulled to their grandchildren. And so they are leaving their forever homes, or what they thought were their forever homes or second homes in town, just because they found themselves driving up north or to Idaho, just too much to maintain these homes. So I've got 3 clients that I'm working with that are in that scenario. I've got another client that I'm meeting with today. Her husband was diagnosed with a really serious disease, and she wants to be closer to family. And then I have some people that they are just wanting an adventure. They want to sell everything. They want to sell their home furnished and start afresh on the East Coast.
That's cool.
So it's a mix of reasons. But all of these people, the thread they have in common is that, well, with the exception of the adventure, is that they don't really care what the market is doing. They of course want to come out ahead, but they need to move. They want to move. And so they're doing everything they can to net the most money, but it's irrelevant. They want to be closer to their family.
It's so ironic that our stories are so similar. I've had 2 in the last 6 months that have gone into assisted living. It's just time. It was getting to be too much.
And Jesse knows that I have 2 that have gone or going into assisted living. And I have, by the way, I may have a third, a gal who's getting a hip replacement who thinks it's time.
I've had 2 moving closer to family. Actually 3 of the last 10 moving closer to family. They got here and realized, man, I don't really care about being where it's nice weather or, where it's good to retire. I really miss my family.
Yeah, it is fascinating. I had a meeting yesterday with KDXU Radio, actually, that we're broadcasting on, and I sat down with Bart Taylor there, and Bart and Sherry, who are my kind of, what do we call it? My reps, right? My advertising reps over there. And we talked about core clientele, and it was interesting. With talk radio, we drive a lot of clientele that are like 50 plus, 60 plus. Yeah. Right. But interestingly, these tend to be the people who are making moves because they want to, because that's the next thing. They are not wrapped up in their 3% mortgage. And I'm starting to notice this trend. It's a trend. Yeah. I don't even remember the last younger person who called me to sell. Oh my goodness.
I've got a few.
That's an interesting thought. I've got a gal who's selling a home who lives in Pennsylvania now. This, by the way, this home is back on market because it fell out of contract. This is the CV home. As a matter of fact, I'll link it. This is the CV home, downtown St. George. Also a really cool home. They built the home for $300.
Isn't that crazy?
$300 and trade for stuff
my
in
gosh.
1939.
Oh my gosh.
In
that's
1939. And, she is, but, she's 50s. They lived in the home and it was a nightly rental, but they would leave. It had nightly rental privileges and they would leave and sometimes rent it. And it's rented this week. But finally they moved to Pennsylvania and decided to stay there for good. So they're selling that, right? But I don't know. These are interesting scenarios. You say you have a couple that are younger though, Jesse, or Jessica, speak up.
Yeah.
Right?
And what's interesting is I've had a few this year, younger couples, that the happiness of their family outweighed the financial part and actually sold where they lost money because they bought at the height of 2021, 2022. But either the missing the family was so important, or the other one was like getting their family to where they felt, and those guys moved in within town. But being in a better neighborhood for them was more important than the financial piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like true happiness is more important a lot of times than money. And I think we lose that.
Yeah. Gosh,
Sure.
this is a fun topic, isn't it? I mean, what a great, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, people always ask us, what's the market doing? How is the market? And you hear on the news that it's going to hell in a handbasket. And we talked yesterday as a team.
Yeah, do share.
Looking at the market, and actually the market has not been that way in St. George. Now, does it feel wonky? Absolutely. But it is actually slightly better year over year from last July.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I think it's really important that we are equipped with that knowledge to educate people. But also the reality is people are going to buy and sell no matter what the interest rates are, no matter what they paid for their home, because of the motivations like we've been talking about: family, health, divorce, death, diapers, whether that means it's a brand new baby or someone going into an assisted living situation. I mean, those things don't change. And so, like you said, it's a trend. We are seeing people that are needing to move and fewer people that are just moving to move up, to have a bigger home, et cetera. And so I think it is cyclical, but it's also just a reminder that those things are never going to change. Those things are always going to happen.
Well, and I think one of the great challenges when the KSL article that I talked about, what was that?
About the interest rates. It was on KSL.
But it was, the one that it was on KSL, but it was, I'll find it. It's in here somewhere. So in that article, I had seen it on Facebook originally. And so I saw people commenting, and one guy said, yeah, our home is we've totally outgrown this home. It doesn't work for us anymore, but we're not losing our 2.8% interest rate.
I have clients like that as well. She's miserable. She literally cried at the closing table when they bought this home 5 years ago.
What?
But
interesting. Miserable, but the rate's so cheap.
It's really hard for her to move past their mortgage payment is incredibly low. And so it's hard for her to wrap her brain around paying more, even though she's miserable. So
sometimes we get so stuck.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Real quick. Yesterday I had a conversation with another agent, and she's got this lady that is so literally facing foreclosure, but she's so stuck. And I said, man, you just need to get her to a point where she needs to really face herself. What's more important, your pride or getting out of this with the most equity you can right now?
Stuck on the number, you mean?
Yeah, the number she's going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the emotional part's so deep.
Well, there's a reason why they say that we're therapists.
Oh, man.
Yeah. You bet we are.
People become hot messes in this scenario. So.
What's your parting shot? Somebody, parting shot.
I think it's important to view your homes as a shelter because that's where memories are made and that's where traditions are built, and have the understanding and appreciation that you can grow wealth. You will grow wealth long term if you invest in yourself by buying property.
Yep. And sometimes, I'm going to capstone it with, and sometimes it makes sense to move for your family, even though it doesn't make sense financially. Guys, visit us at gostgeorge.com.
Thanks for having me.
Or Google, thanks for being on, or Google the Larkin Group. Over and out.
Thanks for having us.